on the back end of a blowout game on Sunday where the Orioles are the best team in Major League Baseball. The Manny Machado stuff, the Red Sox are now rearview mirror for another week. We'll see them again next week up at Fenway Park, so I'm sure the drama will make its way to Rob Manfred. In the meantime, the Tampa Rays come to town, and, they've been better than your father's version of the Tampa Rays. This guy has been covering the Rays for a number of years, always generous with his time to come on and preview all things Rays. He is Roger Mooney 50 out on Twitter and covering all things Rays as well as Tampa sports for the Tampa Bay Times. Roger, how goes it? Not a bad start for the Rays to this campaign, right?
No, I think it's better than a lot of people expected. Scoring a lot more runs than they've had in in past years. In fact, they lead the major leagues with 24 first-inning runs, which is through 20 games. Last year they had 8 in the first inning through 20, with 5 of them coming in one game. So they're getting off to good starts. Problem is they got some issues with the bullpen. They got a lot of guys hurt. 2 guys went on a disabled list during the weekend series with the Astros, Xavier Cedeno and Tommy Hunter, who you guys are familiar with.
Sure.
So they got a bunch of rookies in there, and it's getting a little thin, and it's not being helped by the fact that the starters are averaging just a hair on the 5 innings in their last 12 games. So a lot of innings expected out of a bullpen that may not be up to the task, mainly because a lot of guys are just too young to be handling that kind of a workload, and in that kind of a situation.
It's fascinating for me because, I talk to all of your beat guys pretty often. I have you and Neil and, and Freed and different people on, and it feels like we play you guys 6 times a year because we do. But it feels like it's been months and months since I've sort of caught up with the Tampa Rays, going back to last August and last September. But whenever I look at the pitching, and maybe this is a leftover of the old era and the drafting and how I felt about Joe Madden, who's obviously become decorated on the north side of Chicago and is probably incredibly missed down there, quite frankly, in a lot of ways. But, I look at Archer, I look at Odorizzi, I look at Cobb and these guys who had high-ceiling guys, and looked at all of those guys as potential might-bees, and they might all be 1s or 2s at some point. And I think at various points they've looked that way, if not for injuries and, all the struggles that Archer had last year. Where are those guys in 2017? Because I know you've been monitoring all of them, and I'm sure there were nights at the Trop where you bought into, this guy's going to win 20 games in the big leagues here.
Well, yeah, Archer, he's gotten off to a great start. The team has won his first 4 games. Last year they lost his first 4 games. Actually, they lost
a lot of games.
A lot of his games. He lost 19 and himself, and the team didn't fare better in a lot of the other games where he got no decisions. But he's looks like a completely different pitcher than he did last year. Pitcher with a lot of conviction out there, a lot of confidence. He's throwing his fastball for strikes, which was the problem last year. And that's when he's not locating the fastball, then everything, as you know, with any pitcher, it just goes away. And that's what happened last year. Not so this year. Excuse me. He's pitching a lot better. Odorizzi's currently hurt right now. He's got a hamstring issue that's not too serious, but it's good. Still keep him out for probably another week. Alex Cobb, back at the end of last season from missing nearly 2 years with Tommy John surgery. He's still trying to knock some of the rust off. It's coming back slowly. He's still trying to find the form that had everybody so high on him in 2013. Certainly when he won that wild card game in Cleveland. But he's Blake Snell, rookie, he's still trying to find himself. Looks nothing like he was advertised. And Matt Andriese, your fifth starter, is your basic garden variety fifth starter. These guys, the Rays have a reputation of having a great start in pitching, but these guys are kind of living off the reputation that was created by Shields and James Shields and David Price. And, even Hellickson when he was going good, Jeremy Hellickson, and Cobb when he was healthy. Archer, a lot of potential, but he's not quite there yet, although I think he might have turned the corner this year and might be heading there, maybe heading there pretty quick. But these, they still, some of the younger guys like Andriese and Snell have to learn, they got to pitch deeper in games. They got to be able to hold leads. Andriese was given a 5-run lead on Sunday, and was only able to give him 5 innings. They took him out because he was at 88 pitches and decided, the Astros were just pecking away at him too much. So they're, the potential's there, but they have to realize it. These guys have to go out and and make that potential into reality.
Well, and the offense has improved, and I guess it didn't have much where to go, right? I mean, it was at times incredibly anemic, even behind decent starts from Archer last year. Where is Longoria? I mean, that's the guy you look at and say, of all the people that were there going back to, the teams when they had championship medal, he's the one name that's sort of eternal there, and the guy they sort of built the franchise around down there in a way that maybe they would if they ever gave Machado $400 million around here that we'd be talking about it. But then it's the other pieces that have come through this thing that have to work themselves out and become good players in order for this team to get back to thinking about winning 90 games again.
Yeah, he got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he got off to a slow start last year and then had his best year in a couple of years. So I'm not too worried about Longoria. But, Brad Miller hit 30 home runs last year. You kind of need that from him again. I don't know if he's capable of hitting 30 home runs. We need him to be a big bat. He's starting to get, as old Joe Madden would say, he's starting to get toasty now. Logan Morrison, who was absolutely horrible in April last year, is not horrible this year. So he's giving him some stuff. But I think two big keys. Corey Dickerson, their DH and left fielder. He's their leadoff hitter. He's very effective. Hitting with power, just putting the ball in play, getting on base. Actually, he's giving them a pretty good time out in the field when they do put him out there in left field. But also Steven Souza. This is a guy that they traded Trey Turner for when they had that three-team deal with the Padres and the Astros, and they wanted this guy because they felt he was a better version of Will Myers. He's had some injuries his first 2 years, lack of production. When healthy, he was pretty good, but he had trouble staying healthy. Now he's healthy, but he's doing well. He's hitting for power. He's getting on base. He's not striking out as much. He's drawing walks. He's always going to be a strikeout guy, but he's not striking out as much, and he's turning some of those strikeouts into walks. So he's instead of kind of being the big out in the lineup and the guy that sometimes just killed rallies just because he was due up that inning, he's actually starting to make an impact. And maybe that could be because this offseason they went inside Colby Rasmus, who they were expecting to be a big bat in the lineup. He's not back yet. He's still recovering from offseason hip surgery, but he's supposed to be back at some point this week. And they went and traded for this guy, Malik Smith, who's a guy, completely different outfielder, puts the ball in play, bunts, steals bases, draws walks, creates a lot of havoc on the bases. And because they wanted to kind of get a new look out there that they hadn't had since the days of Crawford and Upton. And these are two outfielders that are competing for space or for playing time, and are quite capable of, especially Rasmus when healthy, of being a big bat there, being what they expected out of Souza. And maybe that kind of perks Souza up. Maybe he kind of figures, he's not on scholarship here anymore. He's got to earn his playing time. And whatever the reason, maybe it's healthy. Maybe he's just figured things out. Maybe he's kind of got the message, but he's turning into the player that they envisioned when they traded for him.
Roger Mooney covers the Tampa Rays. No one does it better. He's at the Tampa Bay Times, and you can follow his journey out on Twitter at Roger Mooney. That's Mooney and the number 50. It's kind of like Hawaii 50, Roger. I appreciate that. Dude, you've been around the Rays forever. I mean, you saw Madden come off the boat from Anaheim, and now Madden's gone, and the good years. What's the post-Madden? What's the future of the franchise down there? I always wonder that. I always worry that. I'm sure you do as well. Are they going to get the open-air stadium thing that sort of San Diego made happen, and maybe what Miami got done down there? Oakland's talking about it, but it always feels like it's one of those franchises on the brink, and Montreal's clamoring again. I heard a lot of that when I was in Toronto last week.
Yeah, that's a good question. I know the city of St. Pete, the mayor came out during the last homestand, and they got this big initiative now. It's keep the Rays here. They want to build a new stadium in the parking lot of Tropicana Field. I don't think the owners are going to go for that. I think there's one place in this entire planet where Rays fans say they will not go to watch a Rays game, and that happens to be where they want to build a new stadium. So I don't think that's going to happen. The other side of Tampa Bay, Tampa hasn't really come up with anything like, hey, come on, build one here. So they're not really trying to get this new stadium built, but it doesn't really seem that anybody really wants one except the one place they don't want it built. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens because I know you do hear the rumblings from Montreal, and even though the Commissioner Manfred says they want to get things settled here and with the new stadium in Tampa and out in Oakland, or Tampa Bay and out in Oakland, NFL teams are moving. So who knows if a baseball team could move, and you could. I could see a scenario where in a couple of years they're playing somewhere else just because they can't get the stadium built here.
Roger, it's amazing, man. I'm an old fart. I mean, I've been doing this forever, and I remember being in St. Petersburg during 92 and 93 and 94. The Orioles trained there. The Orioles played at Al Lang. They dressed up at the old Huggins Stengel Field up there where they have that delicious seafood market on the corner where Babe Ruth and, those guys practiced on those fields under those water towers in North St. Petersburg, I guess back into the 30s and the 40s. And I remember that stadium being there when there was no team. I mean, when Todd Froworth passed away 2 weeks ago, Froworth and I and Mike Messina went to see Duke and Kentucky and Marquette play regional basketball there, in there, and there was nothing in there at the time. It was sort of this crazy white elephant at the end of the freeway that was trying to lure the Giants and trying to lure the White Sox and all of that. It really is amazing in this modern era how these stadiums aren't getting built by municipalities anymore. And down there, whoever was running the place in the late 80s got that thing built with nothing for a tenant, and a tenant that never really came along for a decade or so, right?
Yeah, I think I wasn't around here then, but I think the story is they went and built the stadium here in St. Pete because they wanted, they knew they weren't getting a team without a stadium, so they went and built the stadium and maybe jumped the gun a little bit, maybe should have looked at it a little bit better and said, okay, where really should the stadium be? You hear it's tough for the people on the other side of the bay, from the Hillsborough to Tampa, city of Tampa in that area, to get over here because of the bridges. They back up obviously during rush hour and stuff like that. I don't know, but I do know this: they've had some really good teams, and they've always been at the bottom in attendance. They've not sold out playoff games. They don't. We've had big games in here with when this team was, competing for playoff in first place and the wild cards and all that stuff. You had games in here with the Yankees and the Red Sox, two huge rivals for them, and they weren't selling out. So,
man, if Joe Madden couldn't build it, is the way I think about it. Like, those teams were electric and they were fun. And Roger, you don't know this, but I drove from Miami after a 1 o'clock Ravens game on the Sunday that the Rays played the Red Sox in Game 7. Literally pulled out of the parking lot at 4:15. My wife drove like a maniac. We recorded it on YouTube, and I got to the Game 7 in the second inning, and I bought a ticket for $20 outside for Game 7 of the ALCS. And, it felt to me like, that was a time where I felt like, well, hey, maybe this might work here if they win a little bit. And, boy, they were a great team and a fun team and had a great leader. But that energy feels like it's gone and was sort of kind of wasted to some degree, right?
Yeah, they couldn't get out. They couldn't get permission to look for a stadium then. That might have been the best time to do it because of the lease. St. Pete, they just weren't going to be looking for a stadium then. But you're right. There was a lot of excitement then. You had Price, you had Carl Crawford, you had some young players here, Longoria, obviously. That Ben Zobrist, who became a big popular player here, that people could really wrap themselves around. Of course, Joe Madden was the daddy, and this didn't work out. They sustain. I mean, the crowds, they appear to be bigger this year, but attendance is down. Not a lot, but through the first two homestands, attendance is down, and you could say, okay, well, there really wasn't a whole lot of buzz around this team going into the season, but still, they've only lost 4 home games in the first two home series. They've only lost 4 times, so they've had some pretty amazing comebacks here, and they're kind of a fun team to watch at home, at least, because they can score runs. But I don't know. The future here, you don't want to be down. You certainly don't want to see a team leave your market. But on the other hand, you just don't. You wonder how it's going to possibly stay.
He is Roger Mooney. He covers all things Rays. We're going to let him get back to what he's doing. He had extra innings on Sunday. Getting ready for a big week here of baseball at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Roger, thanks for coming on, man. Always a pleasure to check in with you. And a big week for the Bucks and the Ravens around here, too, to take some of the pressure off. How about that?
All right.
We'll see you soon. Thanks, Raj.
Thank you.
You got it. Roger Mooney 50 is the way to find him out on Twitter. And you can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault all week long. We do document all of our work, and it's downloadable and podcastable. Listen when you want, where you want, how you want. It is the buyatoyota.com audio vault for you at WNST.net. Our road trips are ready to go. They're up for, Nashville, Green Bay, Minnesota, London. All of that is on sale now at WNST.net. You can throw us an email. We have a $100 discount this week and next week if you jump in early. $100 off every person on your trip if you join us this week at WNST.net under the road trips tab. Nasty at WNST.net finds me as well. Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, anywhere the internet is served, including our Facebook Live as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.